Sure, it's good to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you,
What
Maria.
a fight. Oh, my goodness. So, look, you're an African-American successful business person. You're the secretary of HUD. You work for President Trump. Is he racist?
He is not racist at all. You know, the first time I met him, it was before we got into politics, was down at Mar-a-Lago. And he and I were talking, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart is here. And he said, yeah, but this is Ben Carson. You know, that's the kind of person he is. and you may...
Dr. Ben Carson just said what millions of Americans have been thinking for years. Donald Trump is not a racist. The media has built a false narrative, but Carson points directly to the facts. Record low Black unemployment, opportunity zones that revived communities, and historic funding for HBCUs. This isn't opinion, it's proof. In this video, I break down Carson's powerful defense of Trump and expose why the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge real results. If you're tired of lies, manipulation, and political theater, hit subscribe and stay informed with Illuminate, where truth cuts through propaganda.
Escalation in President Trump's showdown with the four progressive congresswomen known as the Squad as their Twitter battle continues to blow up social media. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar tweeted this last night. You all should end this charade and accept that this racist president wants every Black, brown person deported and Muslims banned. His immigration policies say this much. The president tweeted this morning, I don't believe the four congresswomen are capable of loving our country. They should apologize to America and Israel for their horrible, hateful things that they have said. They are destroying the Democrat Party, but are weak and insecure people who can never destroy our great nation. Ben Carson is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and he joins me right now. And, Mr. Secretary, it's good to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you,
What
Maria.
a fight. Oh, my goodness. So, look, you're an African-American successful business person. You're the Secretary of HUD. You work for President Trump. Is he racist?
He is not racist at all. You know, the first time I met him, it was before we got into politics, was down at Mar-a-Lago. And he and I were talking, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart is here. And he said, yeah, but this is Ben Carson. You know, that's the kind of person he is. and you may remember when we were running for president at one of the debates, and I couldn't hear my name announced, so I was standing there. Everybody else gleefully walked past me, but Trump stood right next to me until they straightened it out. You know, that's the kind of person that he is. You know, he lived in New York. Jesse Jackson gave him an award for the incredible things that he had done in the African-American community. I have never seen anything that even resembles racism. And look at the policies that have been done. And look at the people who have been helped. You know, Black unemployment at the lowest level ever. Same thing for Hispanics. You look at the fact that he has engaged so much in second chance for people. You know, things that other people talked about, but he has done. You know, opportunity zones where people who've made enormous amounts of money have the opportunity to take unrealized capital gains and to plow them into the areas of the country that have traditionally been neglected. You know, it's what's been done. It's not what's been said or how it's been interpreted and hashed over and over in the media.
But Secretary, look at this tweet that Ilhan Omar has put out. I mean, this is an elected congresswoman. An elected position that says that, you know, the president wants every Black and brown person deported, every Muslim banned. How is this possible that an elected official can get away with saying this as if this is fact?
Well, you know, there is a radical element. I don't want to talk about a specific congressperson because of the Hatch Act, but, you know, there is a radical element that has been introduced into our legislative body that seems to be intent on pushing their ideology. And they have an accomplice in the media in doing so. And this is very detrimental to our country. You know, I think, you know, we should be having a conversation with the media, and they should be having a conversation themselves, asking themselves, why is it that the press is the only business that has been protected by our Constitution. And the reason is because they were supposed to disseminate objectively to the people of America real information upon which they could make decisions. They were not supposed to try to manipulate people. So, you know, there are the radical element that is taking advantage of the ideological bent of the media, and it's unfair to the people. But as Thomas Jefferson said, the people will come through. The people will be smart enough to figure this out. I hope that's true.
Well, I mean, I agree with that sentiment. This dysfunction is certainly not serving the people, that's for sure. Secretary, before you go, a word on housing. We just saw housing numbers which showed that home ownership in the black community is now at an all-time low, while Hispanics are actually driving the housing market, increasing numbers in terms of home ownership. Can you characterize what you're seeing? We're about to speak with Brian Moynihan, the chairman and CEO of Bank of America, largest mortgage originator. I'd like to get your take in terms of housing right now before we speak with Mr. Moynihan coming up in the program.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, black home ownership has declined significantly, particularly because of the housing crisis. You know, people took advantage of a lot of people who did not have a lot of wherewithal in terms of financial knowledge about housing. And, you know, by manipulating debt-to-income ratios and the various types of manipulations for credit that were done, they put people into houses that they couldn't afford, which is not doing anybody any favor. You lose your house, you lose your credit, you lose your future opportunities. We're still recovering from that. And it is very important that we do what we can to get people back into housing, because the average net worth of a renter is $5,000. The average net worth of a homeowner is $200,000.
Yeah.
40-fold difference. That accounts for a lot of the income gap that we are seeing, and we're working very hard to correct that.
All right, we will talk more about that. I just found it interesting that Hispanics are doing so well, and you're seeing such a difference in terms of the black community. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Welcome back to Illuminate, the channel that sheds light on what the mainstream refuses to talk about. If you love truth, logic, and a good dose of common sense, make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash that like button so we can keep exposing the lies and shining light where the left wants darkness. Now, let's talk about this video. Carson points to Trump's policies as proof he is not a racist. Finally, someone with the backbone and integrity to say what millions of Americans already know but are too afraid to say out loud. Dr. Ben Carson, one of the most respected and soft-spoken figures in modern politics, just laid it out plain and simple. President Donald Trump is not a racist. He's a results-driven leader who did more for minority communities than any so-called woke Democrat ever has. The media doesn't want you to remember the facts. They don't want you to remember the lowest black unemployment rate in American history under Trump. They don't want to talk about opportunity zones that Ben Carson himself helped roll out, programs that poured investment and hope into long-neglected urban communities. They don't want you to remember the criminal justice reform that actually gave people a second chance. No, they'd rather you focus on a tweet or a headline taken out of context, because the truth threatens their entire narrative. Dr. Carson isn't a man who chases headlines or plays identity politics. He's a man of faith, reason, and principle. When he says Trump's policies prove he's not a racist, he's basing that on facts, not feelings. And that's exactly what terrifies the left. They've built their entire political machine on emotion, division, and manipulation. But when you bring in numbers, jobs, home ownership, and opportunity, suddenly their entire argument collapses. It's funny how the same people who call Trump a racist conveniently ignore that under his administration, funding for historically black colleges and universities was permanently secured. Or that black-owned businesses were thriving before COVID hit. Or that his administration tackled prison reform, something the left talked about for decades, but never acted on. You see, this isn't about race. It's about power. The left needs minorities to feel oppressed so they can keep promising to save them. But when a president like Trump comes along and actually delivers progress, that threatens their entire game. And that's why people like Ben Carson are so dangerous to their narrative. He's a black man who refuses to play the victim card. He's a Christian man who believes in hard work and personal responsibility. And he's a truth teller who's not afraid to say the emperor has no clothes. The media can call Trump whatever they want, but results don't lie. You can hate his tone, You can hate his tweets, but you can't deny his record. Actions speak louder than words, and Ben Carson just reminded America of that. If you're tired of being lied to, if you're tired of watching the media twist the truth for political gain, then stand up for common sense. Support voices like Ben Carson. Support leaders who actually produce results, not just headlines. Thanks for watching Illuminate. Subscribe, like, and share this video so more people can see the truth the media won't show them. We're not here to play politics. We're here to expose the truth. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and never let the light go out.